Hey, welcome to today's episode of Make Today Mammoth. I am Dallas Hardcastle, your host. I am excited for you to be here, and today we are going to be talking about the hidden force that will latch onto you and keep pulling you downward unless you are able to recognize what is this force, why does it keep pulling you towards the middle, and how to be able to escape it for good. Hey everybody, welcome to today's show. I am very honored that you are here and that you have chosen to spend a little bit of time with us today. My name again is your host, Dallas Hardcastle. If this is your first time to the podcast, welcome to the podcast. We appreciate you being here. If you are a returning visitor, thank you very much for coming back. If you have not already, if you would want to consider going and leaving us a 5-star review after listening to this episode, we would very much appreciate it. And if you'd like to leave a comment, we would absolutely appreciate that as well. When you subscribe or leave that 5-star review, what that does is that helps bump us up in the algorithms so that more people can find us. We are here to help people. We are here doing this show, obviously, for free. So the goal is to be able to help other people so they do not need to struggle going through these certain areas of their business and their lives. So if we can help do that, fantastic. So without any further ado, in today's episode, we are going to talk about something I call the evolution to equilibrium. What is that? The evolution to equilibrium is something that you've heard Ryan mention in the past. It's called the force of average. And Ryan Stewman uses this because it's essentially the same thing as this evolution to equilibrium, which is that as a higher performer, by definition, that means that we are not wanting to operate in the middle, right? We're not wanting to operate inside the masses. We're not wanting to operate in the average. So what does that mean? That means that we are going to have to create a lot of escape velocity. What is escape velocity? Escape velocity is the thing that you may have heard of, that when the rocket ship, when NASA is launching something, when SpaceX and our good friend is launching something out into outer space, there is this tremendous amount of force and volume and fuel and energy that is required to be able to get that initial rocket put into space. That escape velocity is, and I don't have the stat right in front of me here, but it's something like 90 or 95% of all of the fuel that it carries with them is just to get that rocket going for the first, I think it's just the first minute or two of its launch, literally. And then if it's up there for like a week, that other 5 or 10% is what keeps it up there for a week. Why am I talking about escape velocity? Because as entrepreneurs, as high performers, as peak performers, this is the thing that we're required to do all the time. It shows up everywhere in our business, in our lives, in our relationships. If you are going to create a business, you are going to need to constantly look out for this invisible force, which is telling you that what you're doing is good enough, that you're talented already, so you're not going to have to work maybe that hard or as hard as others, that you won't need to get up that early to get this stuff done. You won't need to spend that much time. You don't need to go over that efficiently. You don't need to be that effective with your time. We can get up a little later. We can go to bed a little later. We don't have to be so strict with this. We don't have to practice that. We don't have to be so consistent. All of these things are these hidden, they're just these like hidden anchors that grab onto us. And these hidden anchors are wanting us to fight through this evolution to equilibrium. They're us needing to fight through wanting to be extraordinary, being required to create our own escape velocity. That if we want to be an amazing speaker, we can't show up and do 80%. If we want to be an amazing presenter, an amazing teacher, leader, mastermind, webinar, business, coach, consultant, any area where we have the opportunity to show up consistently for a long time and to become extraordinary, we can't show up at 80% and hope that it still works out for us. We can't show up at an average rate over an average period of time and hope for extraordinary results. We are required to be able to show up with this escape velocity. We're required to do the things that they're not going to feel, quote unquote, natural, normal to you. I want you to understand, friends, this is so normal that I think sometimes it's like, it shouldn't be this hard, or it shouldn't be this difficult, or it shouldn't take this long, or, oh my God, I shouldn't have to go through this process or this amount of pain for this, this long, this period of time. Friends, I assure you, it is part of the drill sometimes. Sometimes it is hilariously painful to get through some episodes. Sometimes we are going through things in our lives and we are just sure that this thing in our business is going to take off. And I've absolutely had episodes where I thought, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to, lightning's going to strike, but I put in the work. I put in the work to get myself to a certain place and say, okay, now this great thing is going to happen. And it's still even yet almost just abysmal results, and they just weren't there. And then you get down on yourself, and then you just want to do this. You want to just have yourself pulled back down. That force of average, that evolution to equilibrium, meaning that you want to show up at an average rate. You want to put in the average work, and you're going to look around, and that's the problem with most of us. Unless we are just already running in just these elite circles, most of the people we know are family members, our friends, maybe a lot of our colleagues, people we grew up with. These are just going to be people that are not looking to be the best. They're not looking to be the 1%. They're not looking to be extraordinary. They're not looking to be amazing, otherworldly. They're looking to be kind of, good enough, maybe a little bit better. But as soon as we, on that 1 to 10, that kind of that curve, and 5 is right in the middle. If you're trying to get up to just a 7, the forces are trying to pull you back to 5, because equilibrium is where we're most comfortable. Equilibrium is where we can rest. Equilibrium is what feels natural to us. Equilibrium is where we don't feel likely as much stress or anxiety or overwhelm or sadness. We don't have those feelings when we're in the middle, when we're at 5, when we're in equilibrium. We get on the other side, things start to get really bad. Well, then we start to get really uncomfortable on that side. So then we want to move ourselves back up. Gail Hendricks a lot of times talks about this as that analogy for the thermostat, right? Of that when we have our thermostat, if you're comfortable at 72 degrees, we do a lot of things in our lives. There's a lot of stuff going on up here, a lot of motor rehearsal, a lot of storytelling that's telling us to stay right at 72 degrees. Because when that thermostat starts to go down and we start to underperform, good news is that we're like, oh, it's getting to 67 degrees, starting to get a little cold up here. I need to kind of, ramp things up a little bit, do a little bit more, show up a little bit more of this, do a little bit more of that, send out more of these, make more calls, build my team, invest more time into this area, that area, and then we can get that thermostat back up. Unfortunately, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a coach or a consultant, you're going to experience this on the other side of that thermostat too. So when that thermostat starts to go up to 75 degrees, 78 degrees, 80 degrees, you start to get uncomfortable. Again, it's unfamiliar territory. So there's all this stuff going on inside, all of these neuro-narratives that are occurring that are telling us the reasons why maybe it'd be a little bit more comfortable. Maybe we'd be better off at 72. Things aren't bad at 72. It's not like you're broke at 72. You're still doing pretty good with your clients at 72. You still got a pretty nice car. Still living in a pretty nice place. Got some extra dollars to be able to do some vacationing, some investing on the side. Things ain't too bad. That's the problem with wanting to move ourselves above that point of equilibrium, is all of this stuff that goes on. The escape velocity, the amount of energy that's required to push ourselves through that. That narrative, that neuro-narrative that's saying things are pretty good. You don't need to sit here and go out and be uncomfortable. You don't need to wake up early and do all that exercise and do the cold plunge and do the meditation and, invest that money there and drive out here to, to listen to this speaker or to do this mastermind. You don't got to do all that stuff. If you just want to stay at 72 degrees, you don't got to do all that likely. That's the story, but it's also the lie. So friends, I want you to really pay attention to this now, just day in, day out, wake up. And as you're getting into your day, as you're doing these things, As you know that you're building, you're growing, you're evolving into something better, you're moving that thermostat up, it's going to be uncomfortable. And here's the great news. It never stops. It never stops. And I don't mean that to be too tongue-in-cheek, like that's not supposed to be the thing that keeps you from growing, that keeps you from evolving, that keeps you from being amazing. I just want you to know the truth is that if you're making wherever you are right now, if you're struggling, if you got a little bit of money, if you're making decent money, wherever you are right now, if you're looking at that person who's already making, $50,000 a month, $100,000 a month, $1 million a month, whatever, you're like, oh, that must be nice. Oh God, I can't wait to get there. That must be nice. Just be able to kind of be on cruise control and have life so good. Friends, I tell you, they're mastermind members of mine. They are mastermind brothers of mine. They are clients of mine. That doesn't go away. It's never gone away for me. It does not go away for them. That next thing, the next gig, the next engagement, guess what they're doing to their thermostat? Like when it was 72 and then they would go to 75, that was uncomfortable. But now maybe some of them are operating around 100 or 110 degrees. But guess what? These are driven, ambitious people. So when they're at 110 degrees and they're going to look at, and guess what they're shooting for? They're not shooting there to hang out at 110 or, God forbid, start really getting lazy and allowing that to fall down to 100 degrees, 90 degrees, 85 degrees. No, if they're at 110, they're looking for a way to get to 115 or 120. Friends, it doesn't go away. That feeling of wanting to be able to just cruise a little bit can always be there. That feeling of wondering, how much of this do you deserve? How uncomfortable should this be? How hard should it be? How much effort? How much consistency? How many days in a row are you going to be required to do the thing? Because it still doesn't feel comfortable. It still doesn't feel familiar. Friends, this will go on forever. The great news is that once you become more accustomed to escaping past that next channel, that escape velocity, that pulling yourself above that equilibrium and really getting yourself to grow through that, you do begin to get more of a familiarity of that discomfort that says, this is uncomfortable. I know this is uncomfortable, but I've felt this uncomfortable before. This uncomfortable, I've felt this now really for the past 4 or 5 years. As I'm continuing to grow, continuing to evolve, continuing to get better, I kind of recognize this uncomfortable. Doesn't mean that it's not uncomfortable, but I recognize it. And I have a little bit of a relationship with this uncomfortable now because I've been familiarized with it now over the past 4, 5, 6 years and over the past 50, 100, 500 decisions, bold actions, big steps I've taken forward. I'm beginning to now have a little bit of an understanding of this discomfort is healthy and it's going to be the thing that allows me to grow. So friends, be the person who is very aware of the fact that when you're doing this thing that's feeling a little bit uncomfortable, it's feeling a little unnatural, great. You're probably doing something really, really cool. And when you're thinking, wow, it could be okay to kind of hang out or chill or just kind of take my foot off the accelerator a little bit, also know that is normal too. But that is average calling to you. That is average reaching out, and it's like the siren's call. It's like out there beckoning to you to come back because after all, it's kind of warm and comfortable in these waters and it's kind of still and easy. And that extra thing you're doing, the extra calls, the extra emails, the extra work, the extra effort, the extra travel, the extra time, the extra investment you're making in yourself, is that really necessary? Because at 72, you can just be there and be comfortable and just realize that no, that is not the place you want to be, that you're going to fight through that evolution, that desire to evolve back to equilibrium, and to allow yourself that opportunity to be able to grow. Friends, I am rooting for you big time. This is Dallas Hardcastle. I am so glad you're here. I hope this has been a helpful episode for you today. I hope you go out and just smash these goals and whatever it is that you're trying to do right now. I am so pulling for you. As always, my friends, just make today mammoth, and we will look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Take care.